Hello, I'm Porschia Parker Griffin, and I want to welcome you to the Career 101 podcast, a place for ambitious professionals and seasoned executives who want an edge in their career. We're talking about all of the things you were never taught or told when it comes to career growth, development, and change. Now, let's get into it. Today, we are talking about Salary Negotiation 102, Raise Negotiation with Dorothy Mashburn. Dorothy Mashburn is a speaker, leading authority on negotiation, and host of the world's fastest growing podcast focused on salary negotiations. Through her expert guidance, she has empowered countless professional women to secure salary increases ranging from $10,000 to $75,000. Know your worth and fight for it. Hi, Dorothy. How are you today?
Hi, Portia. I'm great. Great to be here today.
I am excited to have you with us to discuss raise negotiations. But first, we want to know a little more about you. So tell me about 7-year-old Dorothy.
Wow, that takes me back to very young Dorothy. I grew up at 7. I was in the foothills of the Himalayas. I had a pet monkey at 7, and life was great. I have a younger sister, and we would just explore and get our creative juices on and play with the wildlife, not realizing the danger we were putting ourselves into. But yeah, that was me in a province called Assam in India.
Oh, I'm really jealous, Dorothy. The foothills of the Himalayas with a monkey that I would love to have had that 7-year-old experience.
Everybody asks about the monkey, so I figured it would be something great to throw in.
Yes. Was it a pet monkey or did the monkey just come by some days and scope you guys out?
He belonged to curiously enough, belonged to a truck driver who got arrested for crossing state lines illegally. So he was in prison for 6 months and his monkey needed a home. So my father, who is a police officer who had arrested him, brought the monkey home for us to adopt for a while. So we had him for 6 months during the time of his owner's imprisonment.
Yes.
Uh,
Oh, that is so cool. That is so cool. What did you want to be when you grew up?
I wanted to be in the foreign services, actually, like a diplomat or working for the United Nations. It was a dream because my parents had their dream, not necessarily mine, but yeah.
Wow. So tell me, what was your first job?
My first job was making pizzas at the cafeteria in the dorms. So I went to school in a rural school in Missouri in the Boot Heel, Cape Girardeau. And a lot of the international students had to work in the cafeteria because that was the only way that you were on site, had a job, and didn't violate your sort of student visa requirements. My claim to fame is one night I made 300 pizzas. Those are the large. Yeah, that was my claim to fame.
Love it. If all else fails, Dorothy, you can go back to making pizzas and start a pizza
Yes,
business.
that's what I think too. I love it. Yeah, I
Yeah.
can please crank them out. The fast food type of pizza joint.
Yes, yes, that's a talent. That's a talent. You are so interesting, Dorothy. So,
Only because I said pizza. Now, admit
no,
it.
no, Himalayas, monkey. I'm with all of
Oh,
them.
yeah.
With
All
all
right.
of you, Dorothy. Tell us about some highlights or pivotal moments in your career before you started your business.
I think some of the big ones are working for Walmart. After my MBA, I went to work with Walmart, and it's very tightly run ship at Walmart. Very well, the systems and processes are set up. So, as a manager or leader of people at Walmart, you didn't have any difficulties understanding what the mission of Walmart is, what they're striving to do, which is serve their customers. think that was pivotal for me because as a leader now of people across the globe, one of the things that I fully believe in from my Walmart days is really paint a clear mission and vision for your people. And if you do that, the execution, which is where the gold is, becomes easy. And so that's one big key that I learned and that has helped. The other pivotal moment was when I started working for the hospital. So we talk about healthcare being so expensive in the United States. And what the hospitals are doing, which is very creditable, is hiring people from outside the industry. So they're hiring people from automotive or consumer beverages, beer, retail. And the thought process is diversity of thought and perspective is going to be what is going to change healthcare in the United States. And I think that's really powerful because when we talk about DE&I initiatives, we talk about leadership, we also in the same breath talk about diversity of perspective. The hospitals are doing it. We always hear the bad news about how failure of health systems, but the great news is that people are thinking outside the box and bringing in talent. And so I guess those are the two things. And then the third thing is more related to my business is as I came up through the ranks in corporate America, I didn't have a lot of people who looked like me or who had a similar experience. I became by ad hoc the only person in a boardroom or only person in a negotiation table. And when I saw somebody who looked different than the cookie cutter corporate business person, I would either gravitate or intentionally include that person into the conversation. And that sort of led me to my business where there is so much work still to be done in equality, equity, and then even the gender pay gap. That sort of naturally led me to my business, which is helping and empowering women to speak up boldly for their worth.
Wow. It sounds like you've had a lot of really impactful career experiences. What has been your biggest career challenge so far before starting your business?
I think the biggest challenge is as a minority who is is a minority woman and an immigrant who did not grow up with with the culture that I'm in today. So and again, to be fair, I've been here over 20 years now. So this is home. This is my country. But at the same time, when you start, you're trying so hard to fit in. You're trying so hard to feel like you belong or become an insider. You lose or you force yourself to evaporate a little bit of your own true self, which is actually, even though you now belong, you don't have any uniqueness left for you or to you. And so it's a double edged sword. And I think that was my challenge that I had to overcome myself because I was trying so hard to be one of the guys. It was, first of all, it was inauthentic. And second of all, I wasn't showing up as my unique self, which then I became ordinary or one of the same. And as a leader, you are doing yourself a disservice. And I think that was my internal challenge I had to get over to be the person I'm here today.
Yeah, that's very powerful, Dorothy. A lot of our clients who are unique in some way or might stand out in some way have also mentioned similar challenges as well. So, what motivated you to start your business?
Yeah, you get to a point in your career, I think, as you come up, you feel like you have, and again, I'm not saying I'm by any means I'm rich, right? You have enough. Like we have a modest house, a modest life, nice cars, great schools for the kids. And you're like, I need to be my purpose now. And my purpose after doing some soul searching was to doing that empowerment work for, say, like you said, 7-year-old Dorothy, like 20-year-old Dorothy didn't have a me to help her come up through the ranks. Or somebody saying, you're being a knucklehead about this, fix it. No one was being transparent and telling me the areas that I needed to get better at and the areas that I was great at that I needed to do more of. And so when I started thinking about what do I want to do in the second half of my career, I started thinking about my true passion, which was getting the tools that I've learned available to people so they can use to grow their careers, to grow their life, to find that happy spot that will make them whole or make them flourish.
How did you decide to focus on salary negotiation specifically?
Yeah. Yeah. Over the years, over the last 10 years or so, I've had so many people come to me by accident or by design to say, "Hey, I'm considering this new career. How should I how should I place my words, or how should I start building rapport? Hey, I'm considering a new project. How what do I say so that I'm considered for this project?" And the advice I would give really resonated and resulted in actual results. So people will come back and say, "Hey, I got that job you helped me with, and I got $50,000 more in total compensation." Or, "Hey, I didn't even think I could negotiate vacation. Thanks for letting me know. Now I have 6 weeks of vacation to go spend time with a cause that I'm passionate about." So that has naturally happened over the last 10 years. And I continue to, when I mentor, see people who say, "I didn't know I deserve it." And that was the one thing that clicked for me. A really strong personality, high achieving woman who I mentor. She's in her early 30s. And she said this to me: "I didn't think I deserved it." And that really bothered me, because it's, yes, you deserve it. You are like the best in the team that you lead. How would you not deserve it? And that's what cinched the deal for me.
Yeah, I have heard similar things from our clients who are women, people of color, and women of color as well. Sometimes just believing that you deserve something or that you deserve a seat at the table, like you mentioned earlier, is something that isn't a natural thought in their mind. So I'm glad to hear that you help your clients in that way as well.
Yeah.
Do you
Yeah, it's almost you don't, it's not that you lack confidence, it's you lack the ability to imagine the biggest thing there is for yourself. And that's where I really do a lot of my work, is imagine bigger. You think you can be a people manager? What about if you can be a CEO? Imagine bigger. Or what if you owned your own business? That's the piece that I think, because of social programming, we get stuck on.
And I could say a lot about that too, but also I think stuck on, or they just start misconstruing it in a different way in terms of what is a CEO based on what they see on LinkedIn or on the internet. So having mentors and coaches to talk to can be really helpful for people. Now,
Yeah.
do you think there are any major differences between negotiating your starting salary at the time of hire and negotiating a raise after you've already been working in a company?
There is a difference. I will say there is a difference. And you'll get different answers on this. Some people say you can't negotiate your internal salaries, like asking for a raise where you're at, because you just don't have the leverage. You have the most leverage or power when you are being wooed, right? If you're being asked for a first date, second date, getting asked to be married, that's where you have the most leverage. I do pride myself in pushing the envelope. So I will say that you can absolutely get a raise at your current job. And there will be a different way of asking. There would be a different terms of that deal, but you can absolutely do it. The difference is that of leverage. Like, you don't have a lot of leverage, but can you create the leverage? Yes. And can you use the right trigger words? Yes. Yeah, you can still get a bigger compensation package at your current job.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you mentioned that, Dorothy, because in our first episode on salary negotiation 101, we talked about having the most leverage when you start that position. So I think the way I generally tell our clients, it's after they've extended the job offer, but before you have accepted.
Yes.
They want you. And yes, using that leverage at that time, I agree. I've seen with clients has really been the best way to go. To something that you were saying earlier, I found that many of our clients have fear or anxiety around asking for a raise, for example. And we recently had an episode on confidence. How do you think confidence plays into raise negotiation?
Yeah, a lot of times you have to dissect why you have the lack of confidence. And a lot of the work we do at this, right, is about our own limiting beliefs and our own mindset. And so if you dissect your own fears, so usually it'll come down to this: I will get a no, I will ruin my relationship, and then later it's going to be awkward. So three things, right? Like the awkwardness of the future, ruining your relationship, and you're getting a no. So whatever those, one of the three things will be the most prevalent for you, you got to then ask yourself, am I worth the extra $10,000 or just a fear of no? Why is there a no and why do I fear it? And if you can answer those questions, I think the confidence part will solve itself. Because a lot of times, actually today, there was a LinkedIn post, and I cannot remember the name of the leader who said that, but she was talking about how she aims to fail 5 times in a day. And so this is powerful because she has a bank of failures, right? So if she uses up those 5, then she starts feeling like, oh, I had a bad day. But until she reaches those 5, she says, nope, I'm going to keep going. And if that works with the audience who's listening, take that, use that to your advantage. And that'll give you the confidence. Like, oh, I failed 3 times. I have 2 more to go. And so if I fear a no and they get a no, that's failure number 4, and I'm fine. I'll be fine today. And you can trick yourself, trick your mind to get over and build that confidence.
I love that. Aiming to fail 5 times a day. And just hearing that no or experiencing what we might deem as failure, for most people, I find that are high achievers or very ambitious, that no or that failure can just sometimes be crushing and make them stop or change directions. Lightening the mood and failing 5 times a day
Yeah.
can really help with
Yeah.
confidence and just moving forward.
There's a great line out of the book called Dune. I'm a sci-fi nerd. It's called Fear, and it says fear is the mind killer. And I try to repeat that to myself because it's like fear is a mind killer. So I got to get over my fear. And that gives me confidence. And some of the negotiations I've been in, it's been very scary. Harvard lawyers who wearing all black power suits, and you're at 5'2", saying no to them. It's very scary, but you got to go in with the mantra or the affirmation that works for you. And for me, it's fear is the mind killer.
The Career 101 podcast is brought to you by Fly High Coaching, where we help our clients soar to their full potential. More and more professionals and executives are setting out to achieve their career goals. But without the right support, it can be difficult, if not impossible. Whether you need career coaching, interview coaching, or a professional resume, we're here to help. Check us out on our website, fly-highcoaching.com. I love it. My husband is a huge Dune fan. So
Look at that.
that up to him. And yeah, I love that. I love that. Dorothy, how does someone know when it's the right time to ask for a raise?
Generally speaking, there are 3 areas you have to focus on. 1, has the company done well this year? Don't ask if the company's financials are not well, not healthy. And then second, usually during budget time, you would give your manager a heads up that you're going to be asking for a pay raise so they can budget for it within the department's annual budget review. And then third, usually the annual performance review is a great time to ask, or right after you have delivered a significant project for the company. So I would say those are the 3 areas that you would want to really hone in on and use to your advantage.
Great. Yeah. I talk to our clients a lot about preparing for that performance review as being a good time as well. All righty. So I've seen you mention that people should think of a pay raise as a business transaction. You've said that people do business with people they connect with. How can someone use the right trigger words to build connection before and when they are asking for a raise?
That's a great question. I love talking about this. So there are different ways you can determine what your counterpart is like. So I always recommend the DISC framework. D is for dominant, I is for influential, S is for steady, and C is for conscientious. And the reason I recommend it is it's just easy. So dominant is type A type personalities like your Gordon Ramsays. So if your counterpart is a Gordon Ramsay, what is going to resonate, right? You're going to talk about results. You're going to talk about the financials. So if you use those words to build a report, hey, did you see the project I delivered? It's showing a customer retention rate of 20% and excess revenue of $20 million. So talk in those terms. It's the language of your counterpart. Your influential people are like Oprah, right? They're talking about relationships, or Ellen DeGeneres. I guess Oprah could fall on both dominant and I. But Ellen DeGeneres, how would you talk to them? It's about culture and building relationships and friendships. Steady would be somebody like Mr. Rogers. Over time, they're looking at performance and consistency. And then conscientious would be like a Bill Gates. How would you talk to them? It's about numbers. It's about, again, performance over time. So once you determine what your counterpart is, you use the words and use the trigger words that will mean something to them. Otherwise, your message is lost. So a lot of times you first understand what your counterpart is, and then you tailor your message.
I think that is a great tip in terms of figuring out your counterpart's disc profile and determining to determine the trigger words that speak to them. It's really, to me, in my opinion, you're talking about psychology and using what's meaningful to that person. Sometimes I call it mirroring. You're mirroring back what's important to them or the words that they use as well. So if I tell people, if you know some of the words that they use, you can mirror back with their own language to them in a negotiation or a meeting to just help your cause there.
Yeah. Yeah. And that salespeople use it all the time. If you think about your favorite salesperson who you don't go, oh, yeah, this person's driving me crazy, that person is mirroring you seamlessly. Like you can mirror where they know what you're doing, but you got to mirror very subtly. And the more you practice, the better you get at it. And you can study salespeople and see how they're mirroring and then adopt that to help you. Absolutely. That's a very strong point.
Agreed. And to that, I also talk to people about mirroring the energy level of the person, right?
Mhm.
So you might be a very expressive and open person, but if the person that you're speaking with is not quite that way, sometimes it's better to perhaps tone it down to match their energy level as well.
Absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
so, Dorothy, what are some of the biggest mistakes you've seen executives and professionals make negotiating a raise?
Yeah, one of the big ones I would say is when you're asking for a raise, you are talking about past and why you deserve it versus why the company should invest in you, keep you engaged, and keep you motivated to continue to see results. Whether we like it or not, the company is in the world or exists to make money, to make revenue, make a difference, and positioning yourself in terms of, I deserve it because I've done a lot of great things in the past, or I deserve it because inflation is high. Those are not reasons why somebody would pay you. The reason somebody would pay you is, I have this new skill that's going to deliver X number of cost savings to the company. And I want to be ready and motivated. So I need a raise to stay, so you can stay at par with market, and I will continue to drive results for the company. So phrasing the sentences or phrases in future results for the company is going to take you a long way versus being me focused. So that's mistake number one. Mistake number two is not really realizing, going back to the DISC framework, and not understanding your counterpart and saying things that don't resonate with them. So going back to the Ellen DeGeneres personality, if you talk to them, to an Ellen, in terms of, I want to be the next CEO. I want to be the $1 million sales rep for this company, is not going to work for that personality type. But if you talk about, I am focused on building culture, I am focused on delivering as a team, that's going to resonate very well with an Ellen. And so catering your message, mirroring, like you said, to your counterpart is going to take you a long way versus misrepresenting your or mismatched representation of your pitch.
I love it. I love it. One thing that I tell our clients, and I think it's to the first point you made about just talking about why you deserve it, just for being a warm body in the role
Yes.
does not necessarily mean that you deserve a raise. And just saying, hey, I've been here 3 years or whatever arbitrary timeline you have in your mind, does
Yeah.
also mean that you should necessarily get a raise. For that reason, I created this whole program in our alliance that is called Promotions 101. And it's about making yourself more promotable because a lot of people just have that, like you said, arbitrary timeline. There's inflation, things have gone up, my rent's gone up, or I've been here 3 years. And that is not the basis of your raise negotiation. So I'm so glad you pointed that out.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, people do talk about that. I've been in the role for 4 years. And I think one of my TikToks that I did talk about that, and I was pretty blunt about it. No one's going to give you a raise because you warmed a chair for 4 years. Whether you like it or not, that's the reality. And so you got to rephrase it to what makes sense to your receiver, your counterpart.
Great. And I love it. You've been so kind. You've already given us some tips and recommendations, but are there any other suggestions that you would share with someone negotiating a raise?
Yeah, think about, and a lot of negotiators tell you this, but really take the time to think about what is it that you want. I call it the want portfolio. So before you go in jumping into a pay raise discussion, really work on what is your want portfolio. And the reason this is important is you may get, and one of my clients did that. She got a 24% raise to her current salary, and she was happy for about 2 months, and then she was unhappy again. And then we spent more time working on it, and she really wanted visibility and and a bigger title. And there's nothing wrong with wanting a bigger title, nothing wrong with visibility, but you got to know that first, because otherwise you're going to get the wrong thing. You're going to fight tooth and nail, and then get the pay raise, and you're not happy, and you then wonder what the heck happened. So really focus on building that want portfolio, and then go into the negotiation, and that's going to do wonders for you. I promise you.
I wish I could echo that a million times. I love the idea of a want portfolio. I think that's going to be very helpful for a lot of people. I've seen many clients become unhappy, and I think this is probably another direction of the want portfolio where they're chasing either a specific job title or a
Mhm.
specific salary number, and then they achieve that and they realize they're still not happy. So, to the point of building your want portfolio, I think that's really great advice.
Absolutely. And then when you build it, it might be flex time with your family. It could be more vacation time. It could be maybe you love working for a charity and you negotiate, hey, can I get 5 extra days in a year to go work for this charity and you pay me for it? It could be so many things, but it all starts with the one portfolio.
So, Dorothy, how do you think someone should react if they use all of the negotiation tips and techniques they can find and their boss still says no to a raise?
And it happens all the time. We know, right? Needless to say, you have to stay professional. You have to keep your poker face. Even if you want to scream or go, what the heck? Don't do that. Stay professional, stay calm. And then the other thing is get into curiosity mindset. So what this means is you start asking questions like, why is it a no? How can it be a different no? So maybe they say, we don't have money in the budget. Okay. So that's the start, right? Now you can have a real conversation of when is the budget going to be right? Or say say, okay, next year. So can we plan for it next year? And then maybe you can add, what can we do in the meantime that can get us ready? So when you put my name forward as a candidate for a pay raise, no one's going to question it. Can I be more visible? Can you budget that money and get me some skills, professional development skills? Put the onus back on your manager and have them start problem solving with you. First of all, stay calm. Number one. stay professional. Number two is get in the curiosity mindset. And number three, make your manager problem solve with you.
Very valuable steps. I hope everyone was writing that down. So, Dorothy, tell us more about your business.
Yeah, so I teach interview preparation and negotiation expertise. So the reason I teach negotiation interview prep is because the first contact you have with your future employer is the time to start negotiating. You're laying the foundation, you are using the right trigger words, you are setting the base, everything else is going to be built on. So I teach women, especially women professionals. I have some male clients too, not to exclude our friends in the other gender, but mostly women on confidence, mindset mastery, and then using techniques and influence and persuasion so they can ask for what they're worth. And women still make 22% less than men. And if we do nothing, the gender pay gap isn't going to close for another 80 years. So I'm passionate about empowering women to get the skills to ask for the money they deserve.
I saw on your website, Dorothy, that you have a free pay raise script. Can you tell us more
Yes.
about that script?
Yeah, thank you for asking. Yeah, it's a word for word script that people can swipe. It's at dorothymashburn.com/ask for a raise. And it goes through objection hand, like first preparation of how do you introduce the topic, then objection handling, using curiosity to ask for more, and then finally problem solving with your manager on how to resolve your pay raise if there is a no. So people have used it and have gotten, last time they used it, client responded back saying they got a $25,000 pay raise based on using that script. So it's powerful, and all of my influence and persuasion techniques are baked into it. So you don't have to think twice. You can just swipe it and use it.
That is perfect. Everyone should go and get that script. And we're going to be providing a link to your website and social channels in our show notes so that everyone can find you online. But what is the best way for someone to get in touch with you?
Best way is going to my website, dorothymashburn.com. It's all one word. And yeah, feel free to check in and say hi. And all my social channels are also on there. And would love to continue this conversation, Porschia. Thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely. My last question for you is the question that I ask everyone. How do you think executives or professionals can get a positive edge in their career?
I think the best way to do it is nurturing your network. The point about, even if you get a no, if you go for a new job interview and they said no, keep that relationship alive. If you get no from your manager, don't, our base instinct is to say, God, this is terrible. I want to go somewhere else. It's absolutely normal. Acknowledge that, but then say, there's a reason why this person is saying no. That doesn't matter. I'm going to build a relationship and continue to nurture it. This is going to pay off dividends in the long run. Not every single, except one, every single job and opportunity and speaking gig I've had is because of the power of my network. And even if you say no 2 years down the line, and they may have a job for you that you'd be a perfect fit for, and they'll call you because you've built that relationship. So never lose your relationships, always nurture them.
Dorothy, you have shared a lot of wisdom with us today, and I'm sure that our listeners can use it to be more confident in their careers and with their negotiations. We appreciate you being with us.
Absolutely. Thank you, Porschia.
This episode was brought to you by the Bravebird Career Alliance, the go-to membership designed for seasoned executives and ambitious professionals with everything you need for career planning, strategy, training, and support. Thank you again for listening to the Career 101 podcast. I hope you have at least one key takeaway that you can use in your own career. If you enjoyed hanging out with us, please rate, subscribe, and share this podcast. Until next time, here's to your success.